Hello there, I'm Scotty, or not. Welcome back to Sequelathon 3. We are taking a look at Weekend at Bernie's 2. Yes, they made a sequel. If you're wondering how could they make a sequel, Weekend at Bernie's, and Bernie was obviously dead in the end. Well, this movie, much like the last film I covered, takes place right after the end of the first film. So, it is 1987. Still the 80s, despite this coming out in 1991. Now, before I get started, I want to let you know that I have two videos I'm going to be recording in succession. Do this one, I'm going to record it, upload it, while I record an unboxing video. I haven't done one of those in a while. I got 3 packages here that I'm going to open in another video, but we were talking about Weekend at Bernie's too. Like I said, it takes place right after the events of the first film. Now, I've heard a lot of negative about this movie. I've heard their jokes on, like, Weekend at Bernie's, like, on Seinfeld. On Seinfeld, they had a joke about Weekend at Bernie's too, and even, what was it, NCIS, I think it was, did a joke about Weekend at Bernie's too, where the guy was supposed to, he wouldn't. He had an alibi, but wouldn't say what it was because he was too embarrassed. They thought it was going to be he was watching porn, but it turns out it was Weekend at Bernie's 2, which they said was worse. And now I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's that bad. Well, it's not a good movie, but it's not. There's a certain standard when it comes to bad movies that people would just say, "Oh my God, that's so terrible," and just shit all over it. And then you watch it and you're like, well, you know, it's not as bad as they're saying. You know, it's underhyped. It's over shit on. Right? So the premise is that, you know, in the first film, Bernie, he embezzled $20 million. So now they're trying to find that $20 million. Right? And we have Barry Bostwick, who's working for the company that the guys worked for in the first film. They get fired from here. And he is trying to find the money, the $2 million. He follows them all the way to the Virgin Islands. Well, there are also these 2 African-American thugs that work for this voodoo priest, this woman. This Mobu. She's called Mobu. And to get the money. And so they have to use voodoo to get Bernie to lead them to the money. Now, they're supposed to sacrifice chicken, but they sacrifice a pigeon instead, which messes up the voodoo spell and makes Bernie come to life every time there's music played. But he's not alive. He just pops up and starts dancing and starts walking. And eventually they realize he's leading them to where the money is. And so that's the running gag of this film, is that they'll have Bernie stationary, sitting someplace, or stuffed in a mini fridge. And then, I don't know. And then all of a sudden music will play, and he'll come out, and he'll just dance. There's a whole gag where Andrew McCarthy, forgot his name. Richard is the other guy. This is Jake. Larry, I was way off. Larry goes on a date with this woman who obviously has no attraction to him. He asked her out to go out, and she tries to tell him about the voodoo stuff, and he's not gonna. She obviously wants to get rid of him, but he pays the cab driver to take off, so he can try to stay the night at her place, but ends up getting dropped back off at his place. He ends up getting kicked out and getting drunk. But with Richard staying behind to watch Bernie's body. Meanwhile, at this point, Barry Bostwick sneaks in. He's followed them there. He sneaks in to search around, thinking they have the money. He leaves the window open so the music comes in. Bernie pops out of the mini fridge and starts going down. He goes down to the beach. He ends up in a conga line. Richard, by this point, also goes in the conga line. I don't know how this works, because they pass each other. But I think it's supposed to be that Richard's looking the other direction so he doesn't see it, but he really should have. And there's this woman who's there with her boyfriend, and he ends up in a conga line with her, and they end up going down to the beach because, you know, he's constantly trying to go to where the money is. But the music stops. Like, there's like a little fight thing between it. The dead Bernie and the boyfriend ends up walking off. And then they both just lay there on the beach. She not knowing that he's dead, despite the fact that they told us earlier that he stunk. They had to spray a bunch of cologne on him because he stunk so bad. Now, let's go back a little bit and give a suspension of disbelief here of how they got a dead body through customs. How they got a dead body through the airport. I know this is supposed to be taking place in 1987. Did they still have X-ray machines? Pretty sure they did. But yeah. Long story short, they got him there because plot. They need him to. And the bad guys don't get him because they end up going to jail. These guys, there's a running joke to the fact that they're going to be turned into goats, which they do. But I don't know. I don't care for those African American dudes. They're comic relief, but Bernie's also the comic relief, and they're constantly chasing after Bernie. There's a whole sequence where they see Bernie and they take him, and then Larry and Richard find them. They take Bernie back, only to then leave him in their Jeep when they go inside the hotel and fall asleep on a couch in there, and then he's stolen again. Like, oh, we don't need him now. Well, why did you steal him back then if you don't need him? There's a whole gag that I feel like would have been figured out where they have Larry signing stuff. Larry's left-handed, though. And so he's got his left hand where Bernie's right hand shall be. And he signs because he's gotten Bernie's signature down. And so they set it up to where he's propped up. They say he's got a toothache, so he can't speak. So he's going, for him. Which, well, I wouldn't figure out that it's not Bernie making those noises. But he writes it with his left hand where it's supposed to be his right hand. I don't know how that works, but I noticed it watching it from a TV, and it was a little bit farther away than the guy that's sitting there. So you think he would notice it, but he doesn't, because plot. And they open up the safety deposit box that they think has the money, only to find a treasure map. Somehow, the Claudia, who Larry dated the night before, they bump into her, and she gets included in this trying to find this treasure, which leads them to the bottom of the goddamn ocean. Yeah, it's buried at the bottom of the goddamn ocean. And here's my frustration with this. So every time you let that music playing for Bernie to keep moving, he goes into the water, he stops because he can't hear the music underwater anymore. Despite the fact that if music was playing loud enough, you'd be able to hear it underwater. It'd just be muffled. But no. So they decide to attach a Walkman to his ears and do it that way. The only problem is, I have owned several Walkmans, and if they got wet, they would stop working. And you could say, well, maybe they put it in a Ziploc bag, and it was close tight enough. But the headphones would stop working. The headphones that got wet would stop working. It would only work if they covered him in a bubble wrap or something, in a bubble suit, and shoved him down there. But they don't. They just put it on his head and walk him down there. And I know, you're thinking, movie, right? But, you know, I'm trying to be realistic in a movie about a dead body being brought back to life by a voodoo thing. You know? And there are several times that Barry Bostwick's character has run-in with Bernie. Now, when they first showed him, I'm like, oh, they're playing Barry Bostwick. They're having Barry Bostwick play a muscle-bound type person. No, miscast. He's better as a goofy person, like on Sin City and stuff. But as the movie goes on, this guy's mind gets so messed up from all the encounters that he becomes loopy, and yeah, yeah. So it works in the end, I guess. It gets more convoluted when Larry and Richard are kidnapped by the two African American thugs and brought to the Mobu. She convinces Richard to drink something, which ends up being a poison or a conjure that will kill him. So that's where they have to get the money and bring it to her. But in bringing it to her, because they had to have shenanigans, right? Shenanigans. Had to have shenanigans. They try to talk to this guy who has a horse-drawn carriage, right? But as soon as he sees a dead body, he runs off so everybody else on there. So they hook Bernie up to it and have him steer them because Richard accidentally shot him in the head with a harpoon. So it stuck through his head. They don't take it out. He stuck through his head. So they attach the reins to that and have him drive them. But then they get to a hill and they go all the way down. They end up crashing into the Mobu, so she can't reverse shit. But luckily, Claudia's father is also there. And they say they need the blood of a virgin, which is the end to a running joke that started in the first film with Larry, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I got poon all the time, man," you know. And it's revealed he's actually a virgin. He's like, "Eh." And then they poke his finger, he passes out, and we cut. Like, we see the bad guys get arrested and stuff, and we also see, I had to rewind it because I missed something. We see Larry bury some money underneath some palm leaves. And I'm like, I didn't catch that the first time I rewound it. Because I was like, wait. We didn't see anyone get arrested? We did. I just wasn't paying attention the first time, I guess. And so, yeah. Going back, I caught it this time. Larry burying some money underneath. He's like, here's all yours. Hey, thank you. And then Barry Bostwick. And then, so they cure him off screen. It cuts to them on a boat. It's revealed that there was actually $3 million in there, and he only needed to return $2 million. But there's $3 million in there that he embezzled. And so they're keeping the other $1 million. Richard doesn't want anything to do with it until Larry shows them hot women as their crew. Also, there's a brief moment of nudity. It comes out of nowhere and it's not really necessary other than to show tits. And it's very quick. Like, when Bernie gets attached to a parasail, water skiing thing, he gets attached to it. He comes swilling down like this and grabs their tops off, despite the fact that it's tied, so it'd be more like pulling him than it is pulling him off. But pulling off. And you have at least the Barry Bostwick seeing this and getting a hold of the tops, and he gets punched in the face. But it's just a quick. I'm all for tits in movies, but this seemed very unnecessary just to get a quick glimpse there. And a PG movie in 1991, nonetheless. But yeah, PG. Parental guidance suggested brief nudity and mild language. I saw that, like, brief nudity. It's PG, and it's 91. When did they stop being able to have nudity in PG movies? It's nothing harmful. It's just very quick. In fact, you'd have to pause. You only see one of the women's if you pay attention enough. The other one you have to pause. She comes up really quick. You have to pause it before she pops up. And that's kind of, it's kind of weird, I'm usually all for tits in movies, but this is just, I don't know. It felt unnecessary and out of nowhere. And if you took it out, it wouldn't affect the plot at all. This was just so that Bostwick could get punched in the face again. Hurt Bernie. But overall, this was fine. I haven't to say it's not worth your time, though. Just watch the first one. It's much better. But I wouldn't mind doing a back-to-back feature. I think it would work. But it is not worth your time, I think. It's not terrible, but it's not good. So, There it is. So what are your thoughts on Weekend at Bernie's 2? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.